Tonight on KGW News. A Beaverton family heartbroken after seeing their father swept up by ice.
It was unreal. It's a reality that a lot of immigrant families are living through.
Also tonight, KGW goes inside the ice facility at the center of the protest.
Also, hundreds of overnight shelter beds coming to another Portland neighborhood.
This is us going on offense.
What makes these different from the rest?
Then later, Rip City back in business. The Portland Trail Blazers season opener, highlights and reaction as they take on the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Well, a very good evening, everyone. David Molko with you on this Wednesday, where we are tracking not one, but two weather impact alert days in your forecast. We're talking about an atmospheric river bringing steady rain and powerful winds, and it looks like that's just the beginning. Chief Meteorologist Matt Safino is here with a first look at the timing. Hey there, Matt.
Hey, David. Yeah, the Pacific Ocean getting very, very active. We've got a jet stream extending from Japan all the way across the ocean, spawning several storms along the way. And the first one of note will arrive on Friday, and that is the one that brings us a lot of rain and a lot of wind, too. Look at the wind gusts as we go through the day on Friday. We're going to get gusts upwards of 30, 35, maybe 40 miles an hour on the Oregon coast. They back off a bit Friday night, then they ramp right back up on Saturday, gusts 35 or so in the valley, and on the coast we may get some gusts of 40 or 45 at that time. We're also watching the swells. There's some big ones offshore running over 20 feet. They're a little bit less onshore right now, but we have a beach hazard statement because of the fact that sneaker waves are a big threat, and on the southern Washington coast, already a high surf advisory. The swells will be running upwards of 20 to 25 feet as we go into Friday. Then there's snow in the Cascades, and yes, the roads will be snowy for drivers, but everywhere is going to be hazardous for hikers and hunters, mushroom foragers. So anybody planning on being up in the Cascades this weekend, the snow level is down to 3,000 feet, and there will be significant snow, certainly at the ski areas, but also on the roads themselves. So we've got to watch for that. So atmospheric river on Friday for rain and wind, probably an inch or so in the valleys, and then a stronger system with heavier wind on Saturday and more rain. So a lot going on as we go into the weekend.
Yeah, a lot to keep an eye on. Thanks, Matt. Now to continuing coverage of the legal fight over National Guard troops in Portland. And new tonight, the state and city are trying to convince a larger panel of judges from the Ninth Circuit to review the case. That's after a split ruling earlier this week that essentially cleared the way for troop deployment. Tonight, Oregon arguing the decision sets a dangerous precedent, one that gives the president too much power. Meanwhile, the federal government says the president has every right to deploy the Guard when, in its view, local authorities are not quelling the violence. While that all plays out, by the way, there's still a restraining order in place from a lower court. So on Friday, a judge here could get rid of that, keep it in place, or decide to wait for the Ninth Circuit's next move.
We're in the most perilous moment, the biggest threat to our republic since the Civil War.
That is Senator Jeff Merkley on the Senate floor and part of a nearly 23-hour speech, and in part zeroed in on the president and the federal response to protests in Portland. Turns out it was the third longest speech in Senate history. Let's bring in Alma McCarty in the newsroom. Alma, perhaps stating the obvious here, but the senator had a lot to talk about.
Yeah, David sure did. The junior senator from Oregon spent his time making the case that the president's actions mirror those of authoritarian governments around the world. And some of those examples traced back to the ongoing protests outside the ICE facility.
For 22 hours and 37 minutes,
the authoritarian actions are not down the street. They are not around the corner.
Senator Jeff Merkley used his position to, in his words, sound the alarm.
Now, all the basic characteristics of authoritarian control are present at this moment in the United States of America.
And in particular, he argued on a specific block in South Portland in front of the ICE facility. Federal agents provoking protesters to create an appearance of chaos.
A riot trying to create the appearance of violence so they convince a judge to let them federalize Oregon's National Guard or move in the National Guard from elsewhere, to mislead the courts and to mislead the American people. It's governing by gaslighting.
One example highlighted by the senator as overreach by federal agents, the situation involving 19-year-old Leilani Payne. We spoke with her earlier this month.
I put my hands up and I said, I'm just standing here exactly where you asked me to. And then he maced me in the face for 3 seconds straight without warning.
If you saw it on video, you would go, Oh my goodness, unbelievable.
And Senator Ron Wyden recalling what happened to Quinn Hobble, another protester, just this past weekend.
Federal agents dragged a 4'6" blind man named Quinn across a driveway and detained him for over an hour.
They call Portland a war zone. The only people that's making it a war zone is ICE.
DHS Secretary Kristi Noem standing by the actions of agents during a cabinet meeting following her trip to Portland.
If we have to do it the hard way in Portland and Chicago, we will.
And on Wednesday afternoon, another senator, a Republican, told reporters why he refused to tune in to the marathon speech.
I'm not listening. I don't know what he's saying. I think it's purely performance.
Other Republicans criticized Senator Merkley for forcing Senate staff and Capitol Police to work overnight while not getting paid due to the government shutdown. After the speech, Merkley told reporters he went around and thanked everybody who had to be on the floor because he realized it was, quote, such an imposition. David?
Yeah, what a marathon. Oh, right, Alma. Appreciate it. Well, meanwhile, after repeated requests for access, we're finally able to get a look inside the ICE building in South Portland. KGW's Kyle Boshi was allowed to climb out on the rooftops, the ones where authorities stand to keep an eye on protesters, though we were not permitted to record a single frame of video showing anything indoors. And while the federal agents Kyle met with would not go on camera, we did learn about at least one major change in ICE tactics locally. You can find out about that and check out his full story on KGW.com. And speaking of federal agents, new video shows yet another arrest in a very public place. This time a Beaverton man originally from Mexico who was stopped and then arrested while on his way home from work on Monday. Celine Stevens spoke with his stepdaughter.
They don't have a warrant! They took him! No!
Cell phone video captured the chaos on October 20th around 9 in the morning as federal agents took Jose Perez into custody. His stepdaughter, Arais Martinez, started recording as the agents drove away.
It was unreal. It's a reality that a lot of immigrant families are living through.
Martinez says her stepdad has no criminal record. She tells us he was on the phone with her mom on his way to work when it happened.
When I showed up, his car was surrounded by like 3 to 5 blacked out SUVs. I didn't get to see him. The windows were shattered when I got there. My little brother and my older brother got to witness all of this.
Martinez recounting the moment she saw agents surrounding her dad's car.
When I got there, the first ICE agent, he was wearing a police vest. I knew he was not a police. He had no badge on him. He would not identify himself. His face was covered.
She then asked him for a warrant.
He told me, he's like, I do have a warrant, just go get your ID. So I turned around, I grabbed my ID, and he was walking away. And so I followed him.
The SUVs seen driving away, and Martinez and her family left distraught. Martinez says Perez came to the U.S. over 20 years ago from Mexico and has been working as a chef for over 15 years. She says she's only been able to talk to him on the phone for a few minutes once a day when he calls from the Northwest ICE Processing Center in Tacoma.
The first day that he got there, they gave him a glass of milk and a banana. The food there is expensive, they have to pay. If we have money, we have to pay for him to be able to eat, a cup of noodles.
Now, the family is raising money through a GoFundMe to help them financially survive.
All our financial stuff, like we have rent coming up, we have car payments to come up with, and, we don't know how we're gonna get this money.
Celine Stevens, KGW News.
New at 11, nearly 300 new overnight shelter beds are set to open in Southeast Portland, though for the first time they'll be for people who are sober and trying to stay that way. Catherine Cook sat down with the mayor to talk about the challenges of trying to end unsheltered homelessness.
Southeast Grand near Washington Street. Many here are fighting addiction on the sidewalks, in empty parking lots, and soon, if and when they're ready, inside this building. It used to be an old U.S. bank. In December, it'll open as Portland's newest overnight shelter with up to 200 beds. But unlike the city's other low-barrier shelters, this one will only offer recovery beds for people needing a safe and sober night of sleep.
They've always been neighbors. It's just now they're not going to be intense on the sidewalk.
Locksmith Jim Holloway works and lives in the neighborhood.
I'm excited.
Why?
Because it's going to be a recovery place. And theoretically, we'll be taking them one step farther away from the streets.
Across from the bank is City Team Ministries. After several years in this spot, they're moving downtown. But the city asked them to keep some staff here and run it as another recovery shelter, adding 80 more beds.
Honestly, I don't have any concerns about it.
Clay Van Riper works nearby. He knows not everyone welcomes overnight shelters, but thinks it's for the best.
I would be more worried if there was nothing happening, if we were stagnant or moving in the wrong direction. As long as we can establish something that works and then repeat the process through the town, I think that's only a positive thing.
We want to meet anybody where they're at that moment.
Portland Mayor Keith Wilson is trying to end unsheltered homelessness in the city, and he's happy with the progress. But there have been a lot of bumps. The biggest one, opening this low-barrier homeless shelter in the Pearl District. Over the summer, neighbors packed meeting rooms demanding the city reconsider.
Come to us with a real plan that isn't fast-tracked and a half-baked campaign promise.
We heard over and over again was, we don't want to be part of the mayor's campaign promise at the cost of our neighborhood.
Yeah. We had to go on offense, not defense. People are suffering and dying now. We can't ask for permission to care for Portlanders. That offense means that when we had a shelter, we found it, we leased it, we opened it. We weren't going to wait for a 6 or 12-month community engagement.
Wilson did say the community's outrage was warranted.
They've lost trust in our city because every time we've told our city we're going to open a shelter or bring this resource, we would see a degradation in service in that community. That's not a partnership.
But 6 weeks after the Pearl Shelter opened, even the most outspoken critics have said the city seems to be upholding its end of the bargain.
Right now, I think things are going in a positive direction.
The recovery beds on Southeast Grand will bring the city's total number of overnight shelter beds to 1,090, about 400 short of the mayor's goal of 1,500 beds by December 1st.
We have 41 days left.
Are you willing to sacrifice your goal to make sure that you make the right decisions for the right communities?
If it's 1,000, then it's 1,000. Our goal is we need about 200 empty beds every night to allow the flex flow. So if it gets cold all of a sudden tomorrow, I want you to trust we always have some place for somebody to go. That's never a tent, that's never a sidewalk, that's never a doorway ever again.
As the partnership with the neighborhood continues, the mayor says the city will send weekly street sweepers, graffiti abatement teams, and officers to address open-air drug activity around the Southeast Grand shelters, much like they've done around the Pearl Shelter. They're also inviting the public to share feedback and concerns. We'll post that email address on KGW.com. David.
Thanks, Catherine. Learned a lot. Appreciate the follow-up, too.